welcome to David Duguid, the new Fisheries Envoy for the UK and also the MP for Banff and Buchan. Hello, Mr. Duguid.
Good morning.
Will there be a legal challenge by the British this week?
Well, that all depends on whether or not the French government, and I know you've been talking to people from the French fishing industry, but it's actual ministers in the French government that have been making what we believe to be entirely disproportionate threats to not only blockade fishing ports and to make the export of seafood onto the continent even more difficult than it already is, but also I believe one of our ministers was speaking about cutting off the electricity to Jersey, and we believe that's entirely inappropriate and disproportionate, and we would be quite within our rights to start dispute processes with the EU Commission, which is what we also believe. If the French authorities have an issue with the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, which was agreed at the end of last year by all parties, then the French should be taking that to the EU Commission as well and not making these threats.
So could there be a legal challenge?
Well, I guess the answer to that is yes. I mean, as set out through, I think it's Article 738 of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. Lord Frost said as much on a tweet yesterday. My role is to act as a liaison between the fisheries industry and the UK government. It's not to take part in UK-EU negotiations or other international relations disputes.
What do the industry want? Do they just want fight? Because I spoke to a fisher whose father gave up when we acceded into the EEC, and he says politics is muddying this. It's relatively straightforward. It's about historic rights and how many licences you give.
Well, I think in my conversations with people involved in the industry, obviously most of the people I've been talking to have been on the UK side, but I've also heard from those on the French side who do not. I mean, the last thing they want is for this dispute to continue. They want to just get on with the job, and that's the main thing they want. Your Professor Camping, was it, who contributed? He told the story very well about what happened in the 70s. When the exclusive economic zones were formed, by which time we were already in the EEC as it was then. And so at the end of last year, when we came out of the EU, finally, that was the first time that the UK's exclusive economic zone actually took effect.
But that's exactly the point. Every time the regime changes, you awaken the historical Leviathan, every time. So that we knew we were about to do that, and we didn't prepare for it, did we?
Well, what actually was agreed, and this was through extensive and lengthy negotiations, you'll remember, seems a long time ago now, but at the end of last year, we finally achieved a trade and cooperation agreement between the United Kingdom and the EU, which contained a compromise of sorts. So as well as the UK taking our place as an independent coastal state free of the common fisheries policy, we also agreed a compromise of what we call an adjustment period to allow the EU to get used to that new way of operating. Okay. And within the terms of that trade and cooperation agreement, there was a very specific allowance for EU fishermen, including the French, to continue fishing in UK waters under license, and the terms of those licenses specifically require our evidence of a track record. Now, we've awarded, or the UK has awarded, close to 1,700 of these licenses across the EU, more than 700 to the French fishing industry. But there are those, a small number, who have not been able to, for whatever reason, not been able to provide that evidence. Those vessels that are unhappy.